Oh my, thank you so much. Thanks for everybody coming here to Monday night at the Marsh and supporting live theater. So please give yourself another round of applause. I don't know about you guys, but I love Monday Night Marsh. And I'd like to welcome people out there in the marshland and out there in the earth and Zoom. Welcome and thank you for coming. If this is your first time, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. Thank you so much. Now we have a wonderful night tonight with 3 performers. So, but first, this thing is first. We have to talk about the preliminaries about at the Marsh. Number 1, please, when you get a moment, to silence your phones. If you could do that right now, you can turn them off or silence them. We would hate for them to go off and, ruin the show. That happens sometimes. Right here for emergencies, we have the emergency exit right there and one right there. But if you guys get confused, follow me because I'm getting up out of here. So just to let you know. So here we go. I know there's some people in the audience and also out there in Zoom who would like to say to themselves, hey, I would like to be on the stage too on the Marsh. Well, if you want to be on the Marsh, on Monday Night Marsh, all you have to do is go down there on Marsh website and just scroll down there and they'll tell you exactly if you want to be in the Marsh on Monday nights. So let's go ahead and start with the show, which I'm so excited about. First, one more thing. Happy Juneteenth Day for America. I feel guilty if I didn't say that. But anyway, okay, now do we silence our phones? So we're gonna go with our first performer. So wonderful. I'm gonna say a little bit about this gentleman. His name is David Zepker. He grew up in San Fernando Valley, and he has lived in San Francisco since 1972. But he also moved in 1978 to live in the Tenderloin. He has worked as a CPA and a massage practitioner since 1988. And he has a wonderful story he'd like to tell everyone. And it's called, This is a Story of a Period After David Zepker's Father Has Died. Give him a round of applause, please.
On June 20th, 1997, my family of origin gathered at my parents' house for Shabbat dinner, the meal that Jews traditionally have at the beginning of our Sabbath. I was there, my brother was there, my sisters were there with their husbands and children. My mother was there. The only one missing was my father. He had passed away that morning. So began one of the most difficult periods of my life. My mother called me early that morning to give me the news. I was still in bed, so she left a message on my machine. And I could tell from her voice that she was upset. It was the same voice I remembered from my childhood whenever I would get suspended from junior high. And I wondered what I could have possibly done that would have upset her so. It wasn't until I called her back and my sister answered the phone and gave me the news that I realized it wasn't about me. I had had a difficult relationship with my father. And when I attended his funeral and I heard eulogies about what a wonderful father he was and how he always had time for his children, there was a disconnect between the father I heard described and the father I remembered. And I was full of anger with my father for not being who I wanted him to be. And I thought the best way to process that anger was to spend the Shiva period, the 7 days after a person dies, at my parents' house, processing my anger. Unfortunately, my mother really wasn't in the mood for my anger. And both of my sisters told me that it was really difficult for my mother to be with me at that time. And they suggested that I go back to San Francisco. I thought it was between me and my mother. It was none of their business, and I told them as much. And then finally, after a few days, my mother asked me to leave, and so I left. But I still had all this anger. And behind the anger was a lot of sadness. I didn't realize how much until a few months later when I went to a Staples office supply store to buy some supplies. And the song Cats in a Cradle about a father and son who never had time for each other came on. And tears started flowing down my face. And I could exit the store rather quickly. Unfortunately, the tears didn't stop so quickly. Finally, by the time I got home, they had stopped, but I realized that there was just a lot that I had to process. And if that wasn't difficult enough, it was about this time that I started losing clients. I had spent 10 years building my accounting practice, and finally, after 10 years, I finally had enough clients that I could make a comfortable living. And then one by one, I started losing clients. The first client I lost was one that I had a difficult time with the executive director. And I even suggested to the executive director at the conclusion of my last audit that he might be better off finding somebody else to do his next audit. And so I wasn't that surprised to lose that client. There was another client where I had difficulties with the bookkeeper. I was kind of hoping I could hold on to that client, but I wasn't that surprised when I lost that client. Finally, I lost a third client, and losing that client felt like a punch in the gut. I realized that this wasn't working out for me and that I really had to make a major change. Then people welcome change. I am not one of those people. When I see change coming at me, I kind of run from it as fast as I can. And every so often, I look over my shoulder to see if I'm making any progress. If I see that change is gaining on me, and I realize the only two choices are to embrace it or to wait till it bites me in the ass, then and only then do I embrace change. This was one of those times. I didn't know what to do, but I figured that what I really needed to do more than anything else was take some time off. And so I applied for the work-study program at Esalen, which is the name implies, is a combination of work and study. You work about 30 hours a week. And then there also, is a class that you attend in the evenings and some weekends. It'd be kind of a way for me to do something while I, figured out what I want to do long term. And it wouldn't have been possible if my father was still alive, because as long as he was alive, I was always trying to get his approval. And I remember a conversation I had with his brother Raymond and my mother shortly before I started the work-study program, where Raymond told me that, he thought I was making a big mistake. And I remember telling him, I'm sure if your brother was still alive, he would say the same thing. And he's not, and I'm doing what I damn please, and this is what I want to do, and so I did it. The first month of work at Esalen in the work-study program, first month was I worked in cabins, which was, a lot of cleaning toilets, cleaning sheets and towels, folding sheets and towels. Not the most exciting job I ever had. Second month in ground was I was working grounds, which was a lot better. I got to pick up trash, water plants, trim plants. I didn't do a very good job. I remember there was one time when I was a little overzealous in the trimming and got help from one of the people who worked there, but I enjoyed a lot more than working in cabins. And then finally, my third month, I was able to do what I really wanted to do, which is work in the garden and farm. There were two things I learned while working in the garden and farm. One thing was that hoeing has a very different definition when you're working on a farm than it does where I live in the Tenderloin. The other thing I learned was that while there are a lot of city dwellers who would love to get dirt beneath their fingernails, I'm not one of them. I really didn't like working in the garden and farm, and was glad when the month was over and I could go back to my apartment in San Francisco. And I didn't even think about the work-study program again until 4 years later, when there was an opening in the program. And because I'd been in the program in the past, they sent me an invitation to apply. And so I applied for the program and got accepted. And immediately before the work study program started, I took a 5-day workshop at Esalen. And there was one evening where it was warm, and warm evenings at Esalen are about as rare as warm evenings in San Francisco. And I wanted to take advantage of the weather by having my dinner on the deck. There were a lot of other people who had the same idea that I had, and all the tables on the deck were full, but one. There was a woman having dinner with her 2 sons. I am not crazy about little children, and that wouldn't have been my first choice as to where to sit. But since that was the only table where there was space available, that's where I sat. And somehow I ended up playing with those 2 little boys, and I remember chasing them around the lawn, and the 3 of us had a blast. And people who saw me with the kids said, "David, you're wonderful with kids. You want to work at the Gazebo," which is the early childhood education program at Esalen. And I would say, "You don't know what you're talking about. I'm terrible with kids." But more than one person said that. And there's a wonderful quote in the Talmud. If one person tells you you're drunk, pay him no heed. If 3 people tell you you're drunk, go lie down. And I thought, well, maybe I ought to look into the Gazebo. And so I applied, and I got accepted, but only for 1 month. Normally internships are for 3 months, but they weren't sure about me. And I wasn't sure I wanted to work at Gazebo, but I figured I could try it for 1 month. Couldn't be too bad after all. I'd be at Esalen. Also, one thing I found out was that interns get a private room, and privacy at Esalen is a rare commodity. So I was, looking forward to that. And so I went to Esalen for a month. And it was the best job I ever had. It was magical. I really enjoyed it. And even though I left at the end of the month, they invited me back for 6 more months. And then also I got to be in fill-in for a while. And so between my time as a fill-in and the time, working as an intern, I worked a total of about a year at Gazebo, spread over 5 years. And so I consider myself very fortunate, to have had that experience. There's a saying that when one door closes, another door opens. And that was certainly true for me, that, if I hadn't lost my father, if I hadn't lost my clients, I probably never would have worked at Gazebo, and I would have missed out on the best job I ever had. So I feel really grateful for that. I would like to close with the song that I sang at the Shabbat dinner that I referred to at the beginning of my story. Kol ha'olam kulo, Gesher tsar meod, Gesher tsar meod, Gesher tsar meod, Kol ha'olam kulo, Gesher tsar meod, Gesher tsar meod, v'hayikar, lo lefachet klal, v'hayikar, lo lefachet klal. The world is just a narrow bridge, just a narrow bridge, just a narrow bridge. All the world is just a narrow bridge, just a narrow bridge. And above all is not to fear, not to fear at all. And above all is not to fear at all.
Put a name on it to help you understand. the sound of it, gonna hang it on your wall. Turn and run with it, for the sake of one and all. When you call.
Let's give a round of applause again. That was for David Zepker. This is wonderful. You know what? I'm going to interrupt a little bit for some more information about the march. Do you know at the San Francisco March in this theater right here, we're having a wonderful show it's called by Don Reed, the Never Too Late Show. I'll repeat it again, by Don Reed, the Never Too Late Show. It's on Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays. Maybe. Saturday and Sundays for sure. But come to the show just to make sure it is Saturday and Sunday. Okay then, so here we go. Then we have a wonderful show by Josh Kornbluth, which is called Citizen Brain. Now, both of these shows are fabulous. That's all I just like to say. Now we're going to move right along to our next performer, and I'm so excited. Now, this performer is named Malcolm Grissom. He's an award-winning actor, comedian, and public speaker. He's also a family relationship coach and youth development speaker. Now, Malcolm tonight has a wonderful show, two short stories that taught Malcolm the biggest secrets of thriving in life. And the show is called An Evening with Malcolm Grissom. Give him a round of applause. Thank you.
How are you guys tonight? Good. So the first short story I'm gonna tell tonight is called Crossing the Finish Line. Do you know what it takes to be the winner? Picture this. My last track meet in college. I'm running the 200-meter race. I'm ready at the starting line, just waiting for that pistol to set me free. And I run harder and faster than ever before. I use my peripheral vision as I round the first turn. No one's near. I keep going. I use my peripheral vision again around the second turn. Still no one. I see the finish line. I'm going to win. I'm going to win. I'm going to win. Friends, have you ever seen your dreams so close that you could reach out and grab them? Have you ever been told that you can't achieve your dreams? When I was 9 years old, I awoke to hear the doctors tell my parents, "Your son has Reyes syndrome. It attacked his brain and liver. He can't walk or talk, and he may be paralyzed for the rest of his life." Paralyzed for the rest of my life. Not after a few months a very hard work with my therapist, I was able to get out of bed. Not only could I walk and talk, but I ran track and field in high school and college. So to my professional doctors, I had a coach who told me alone is fine, together divine. And I thought about that and I said, alone is fine, together divine. That sounds great for a greeting card. But that simply wasn't my reality. See, as a child, my parents had divorced, so I fought all the time with my mom. My parents fought all the time. My dad, who I didn't fight with, lived 3,000 miles away. I was not feeling the togetherness. I was often alone, and it wasn't fine. Now, have you ever pursued your dreams? It takes passion and patience and perseverance. And trust me, I often wanted to quit. Every day at practice, almost after every practice, every day I would spend 30 minutes submerged in ice because my body ached. And I often said, Coach, I quit. We both know that the runner with the best start wins the race. I'm disabled. I don't have the best start. I can't win. Malcolm, winning is more than just crossing the finish line first. Winning is showing up and being part of a team. Alone is fine, together divine. I'm going to win! I'm going to win! Oh. My left hamstring froze. And as I hobbled my way towards the finish line, I saw all the other runners pass. And my dreams of winning my race faded. After the race, I hobbled up to the locker room. My cleats clacking on the cement. The sound of defeat. When I got to my locker, there was an article from the school newspaper. Disabled runner completes track career. The article was about me. It told my story and my struggles, and it ended with some quotes from my teammates. Oh, Malcolm is so inspiring. He makes me want to be a better runner. Malcolm is so cool. I thought, duh. I spend 30 minutes a day in ice. But the article ended with a quote from my track coach. One man can win a race, but it takes a team to win a track meet. Malcolm is an integral part of this team. Coach was right. Alone is fine, together divine. So think about your team. Who inspires you? Who makes you want to cross the finish line? Because we all helped each other cross the finish line. It was divine. So now I challenge you, reach out to your team. Tell them how much they mean to you, and then ask how you can support them. Because alone is fine, together divine. Have you ever been so angry that all you saw is red? Maybe it's because you have on metaphorical red glasses. Albert Einstein once said, "Anger dwells only in the bosom of fools." My friends, I used to be a fool. I let my anger get the best of me, and it almost destroyed me. Don't be a fool. Find a way to let your anger go. I used to work at the Employment Development Department here in San Francisco, EDD. My coworkers joked that EDD stood for everyday different. It stood for everyday disaster. At first it was nice because I loved the diversity of my office. It was 50% Asian, 30% Caucasian, 15% African American, and 5% alien. And those were the supervisors. They alienated everyone. My supervisor, I need to tell you this. My supervisor wasn't an alien though. She was like the Wicked Witch of EDD. She walked around in her glasses. She had a huge wart on her nose. And every day she ate her tuna fish and garlic sandwiches. Everyone alienated her. On my first day, Supervisor Garlic Breath said to me, she gave me a desk of my own, a stack of files higher than the Eiffel Tower, and her blessing. Good luck. That's the first day I started seeing red. Then I had a client, my first client, his name was Jorge. Jorge complained to me that his boss just fired him for no reason. What do you mean, no reason? Your boss didn't say anything at all? Nothing, man. Well, okay, he did say I was sleeping on the job, but I wasn't even sleeping. Oh, so you were dozing off, or were you actually lying down? Well, yeah, I was lying down. But it wasn't just me. It was Bonnie. Bunny was there too. You were sleeping with the bunny? No, man. Not Bonnie. Bonnie, the boss's wife. More red. Then my next client, Susan, I was talking to her on the phone, and she was telling me how hard she was looking for work. Every day she would go out there and look for work. And yet I heard sounds of the ocean in the background. And her husband shouting, "Hurry up, honey! This Hawaiian tour's not going to wait. The dolphins aren't gonna swim by themselves." Constant red. Then I had to ask my clients these controversial, convoluted questions like, was there any reason other than illness that you could not work in a week in which work would have been available, whether work was actually available or not? Did you understand that? 20 years, I'm still confused. Right? I was overworked at the unemployment office. And what could I do? I saw red everywhere. But what? I mean, I couldn't quit because I'd have to come back to the office the next day. I mean, what would that look like? Quit. Can I have my unemployment money, please? No. Too bad for you. Our interviewer just quit. I've got you now, my pretty, and your unemployment money too. But then I remembered something my comedy once said. He said, when you find the funny, the fun finds you. So I took off my metaphorical red glasses and I started looking around for other things, for hats, I found this wonderful hat. Everybody thought I was an EDD supervisor. But then I found some perfect glasses to go with them. And I started asking my clients, do you really have the skills that it takes to be unemployed? Can you sit on your couch for hours a day watching TV? And most importantly, if opportunity knocked, would you pretend you're not home? The clients loved my sense of humor. So I challenge you take off your metaphorical red glasses and keep searching to find your funny, because it's out there. And it might take you lots and lots of different hats and different glasses, but eventually you'll find it. And when you do, you can say, I found the funny, so the fun's found me.
In a vast field of days, she runs from the deepest valley past the sun, opening up the vault to find spinning tops in play. Embedded nested yarn, diverting from the gates. But once the faint elusive moans evaporate in the morn.
That was a wonderful performance, right? From Malcolm Grissom. Give a round of applause for him. We got 2 stories for the price of 1. And that is great. Hey, Malcolm, do you know it's Juneteenth today? Right, Juneteenth. Guess what it is? Also, it's the month of June and it's Gay Pride Month. So give a round of applause to all the gay community. The Gay Pride Month. The fight is still on with that. Oh, I have some other things I need to bring to your attention. Do you know after this show, we're gonna have a performance discussion, which means all these wonderful, talented performers is gonna come here, sit on the spotlight, and you guys can ask them any kind of questions. Well, not any kind, but you know, some questions and stuff. So here we are, down to our final performer. I would like to say a little bit about this gentleman. His name is Ron Don. Now, Ron Don is a self-taught visual artist, mainly active in the 1970s. He made his major work is an illuminated manuscript fairy tale about world peace. Ain't that nice? It's unpublished, but we're working on it, right? We're working on it. He performed and helped create a theater dance group called Natarajan. Now tonight, Ron Don show description is just this. It's called The Last Will and Testament of a Flower Child. How a San Franciscan rock band laid it down for all of us and became your best cosmic self. Or he says, become your best cosmic self. Now the name of the title of the show is called Why White Bird Must Fly. Give Ron Don a round of applause. Thank you.
Back in 1969, that album, that song came out. It was called It's a Beautiful Day, the album, by the same name, the band, It's a Beautiful Day. It had a sort of feel to it that stuck with me. It might have been because I heard it maybe tripping on acid. Back in 1969, I had come out of high school, went up to Ohio State to go to college, and more or less turned on, tuned in, and dropped out. But I didn't just drop out. as much as I dropped in, I think, to an inner revolution, not just a lot of things were going on the outside, but what spoke to me was from the inside. We needed to change ourselves, and then we could change the world. And there was a air of something wonderful was being born. Some call it the age of Aquarius, a summer of love. There's something we wanted it to happen and also to keep going. And that's sort of what I've been working on in my life to take with me. And this album and their music really helped me. It speaks, I think, what that is. They give that in a poetic way. And I wanted to see it turned into a musical as it was in my head when I first heard it. It just was this cosmic visual thing that you got to go to, a place inside. And so I've come up with this musical that I want to share with you called White Bird Must Fly. And in White Bird Must Fly, the stage opens to just a small studio-looking apartment with a couch visible in the front, and a guy coming home to that apartment, an old guy, comes in, looks around, flips on a light, goes over to the fridge, maybe gets a drink, takes a sip, sits down by the couch, maybe looks for a cigarette or a joint in the ashtray, takes a puff or so, lays down, just turns off the light. But another light comes on in the room, a glow. And these spirits, these beautiful dancers appear around him. And they're moving to a song that's message is, when you're in a dream, time moves so slowly. Open up your mind. Go to sleep on the moment you were born. Open up your heart. Go to sleep on the moment time was born. The dance goes on for a while. The dancers are trying to wake him up, it seems like, or playfully trying to get him to engage in their dance, but it doesn't really work. He's still sleeping. And as the song ends and they leave, you hear banging on the door and a sunlight coming in through windows in the back. Come on, open up, let me in. Guy gets up, opens the door. Son, obviously an old friend of an old guy, comes in, they're chatting about this and that, what they've done. But more importantly, his friend is telling him, we gotta go hear the white bird tonight. She's here. She's gonna be here again. Someone they knew in their youth, they talk about her. What happened to her? Where'd she go? Where'd any of it go? The old guy's just flummoxed. He doesn't understand how everything happened and moved away. You know, she just moved away. She's back. What do you mean? It's like, just come, hear her. But as he's talking, he realizes his friend is just not connected to himself anymore. And he does a thing with a dance that's almost like a flamenco dance. His song is hot summer days, carry me along to the end where I begin. Love, 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 where did you go? The stage has a change of scenery as they move out. The stage sort of rotates and becomes the bar where this performance is going to happen, the White Bird. Before they even step in, they can hear some of the music playing, and the song is singing, the sunsets come, the sunsets go, clouds roll by, and the earth turns old. But the young bird's eyes do always glow, because they must fly. They must fly. And then she's there on the stage, just like they remember her, dancing to the song of the white bird. And as she finishes the song and disappears quickly, they don't have time to stop her or talk to her. And they want to know what happened to her. So is that scene. And meanwhile, we get to follow the girls back to their place where they've gone, the dancers that were on stage with the white bird. And they saw them in the audience. And they're like, oh man, didn't know they'd be there. People they knew that they felt like never got them. Those guys, they just never got where we were at. They didn't understand the hip movement, the women's movement, the marches on Washington for Vietnam, for civil rights. They just kind of acted like they knew it, but did they really know it? As they're talking, a vision appears behind them on the wall, and it's a girl with no eyes. You hear a song begin to play, girl with no eyes. There's a girl with no eyes, her face on the wall with no eyes. Beautiful girl, who does she see? Beautiful girl, who is she? Doesn't everybody know love takes a lifetime? Doesn't everybody know eyesight is the love of a lifetime? That's the end of the first act. Second act comes after a small intermission where there's just a curtain that's magnificent, almost like some sort of celestial sky with stars shining all around. You can kind of vaguely see through it, and there sits that couch, and there's that guy sleeping on the couch. Curtain opens up, and the spirits, mainly women, move in and dance around him again, but this time they're making him join them joyfully. They bring him up as in a dream, and he learns to dance with them. And the music builds to a lovely crescendo, and he is laid back down on the couch, and they disappear. And then you hear knocking on his door again. Hey, are you in there? Come on, man, let's get together. Opens up the door, it's his friend again. Tells him they gotta go back to the bar because they're gonna have another performance and they'll get to see the white bird. He's not real excited about it. He feels sort of like, I don't think they really want to see us. I recognize some other people there. I don't know about that time period and everything. And he starts talking about his life and what didn't go right with it. And his friends listening to him and just feels like, there's so many things that go wrong with life, but you just can't hold on to it. I mean, look at all the trouble that people have had trying to make a living for themselves and everything. You've had an okay life to some degrees. So as they're talking, he starts hearing the song that goes something to the effect of, it's so hard, I don't know if I can make it. I'm so tired, I don't know if I can fake it. But something keeps telling me, you gotta keep moving on. And then you hear a voice say, if we really try, I know we'll make it. So the lights go out, they appear again, they're at the bar, and this time it's filled with a lot more people. And he sees people that he knows from the past, like the white bird that he hasn't seen in ages. And so as the show goes, he's wandering around the tables, and different tables are highlighted, where he picks up with friends that he's lost total touch with. And what they did with their lives, they start just partaking a little bit of what happened in their existence. And it's making him feel really happy to be there. And then you hear an applause, people are coming out on the stage, and the song lifts up, time. Time is too slow for those who wait. Time is too swift for those who fear, and time is too long for those who grieve, and time is too short for those who laugh. But for those who love, but for those who really love, time, sweet time, precious time, all the time is eternity. It's just this anthem of joy. They're all up on their feet, they're dancing, it's turns into like just a huge celebration. Whirling around, that's the end of that scene. Next we find them, the two guys back in that little apartment, laughing, talking about the evening, what happened. Can't believe they saw it, that they were there. And that they feel like, you know, we could go ahead and hang out with these people again, get our old friends. And more importantly, he felt better about himself. And as he's sitting there thinking about the white bird, you see the picture of a girl with no eyes on the back of their wall behind them. But now she has eyes and they're fully open. And the song of the white bird lifts up again, and people come into the room, as in the dream, to dance, and they're all singing that song of the white bird. And if I can remember the lyric, it's something to the effect of, the leaves blow down the long, dark road under the ragged sky in its rage. And the white bird, she sits in her cage, unknown. But not now anymore. They realize, not now, because you see now why the white bird must fly, to know the truth of love. Thank you.
All right, we're having the board come up on stage. I'm gonna grab the bar stools and we'll get the Q&A started.
Really quick, that was Ron Don.
Yeah.
There you go. That's one thing left. We have a performance discussion, and Robert's bringing up the chairs.
You don't have to be so far away. I'm just so used to doing that back when we got the masks mandate. You can come a little closer if you want.
Which one do you?
Like, well, some saucers that made it.
Okay.
We can come closer.
Okay.
A group.
I feel like the dunce.
Yeah.
Hi, folks.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Good.
Malcolm. We're gonna say the names again of the performers, okay? This is so wonderful. We have David Zepper right here around the applause. This is, we have Ron Don. We have Malcolm Grissom. It's so wonderful. This is a wonderful opportunity for you guys in the audience to ask any kind of questions that you like with the performers. They really put a lot of time and effort out here to perform and bring a little joy to the stage. Is there anything from the audience that you guys like to say to any of the performers?
I guess I can start with the first question. Now that you've done the performance, how do you feel it went? I know that as performers, we can kind of put a lot of pressure. Sometimes we go into it with best expectations, it doesn't come out the way we want. Sometimes it's the other way around, we're not going into it with great expectations, but then it surprises us. How do you guys feel now that you are at the other end of the performance of the night?
I feel good.
I'm not trying to be on the spot, but you did have some challenge, like you kind of just wanted to get this out of the way, you were supposed to be the
Yeah.
performer, we made you first because, you just kind of wanted to get it out of the way. You said you think you went great, you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Sure, one thing was I didn't really. It's kind of like, I think I was telling Malcolm backstage, I didn't really want to do this, or maybe it was talking to you, Rhonda, I was talking to one of these two gentlemen about how I really didn't want to do it, it was kind of like I dared myself, I just wanted to see what it was like, it was a challenge for me, and I wasn't looking forward to it at all. And I wasn't sure if I could get through with the piece without crying. And I mean, the fact that I, did a halfway decent job, I didn't think it was great. But it could have been a lot worse. I didn't freeze. So I think, what's the old quote about a dog walking on its hind leg? It's never done well. But the fact that it's done it all, it's just enough.
David? Don?
I think I feel like the flow of it, it's hard for me sometimes to come up with exactly how I want to start each of the scenes I'm going to present, which are linked to the songs on the album. And I think that as I worked with it, there were different times I went through it in my head where I had a key word that would start the scenes and end them. And then I would kind of erase that. So I think what you saw tonight was like a little bit of a mishmash of the different ways I thought of presenting it. And so if I was stumbling through it with the flow of it, it was because I didn't quite carry through with an organization of it that I probably should have. That's my feeling of it. But I feel good about it.
Malcolm?
How do I feel now that it's over? I want to take a nap.
As in like, good, thank God, if your pooped because of all the energy you put into it? Or did you have a long day already before this, so?
No, as in I had a long day before this and now I want to take it out, but I can't because I have to go to work.
David, if I can ask you this question.
Sure,
It's called your show After My Father Died.
yeah.
Was this a healing process for you? Did it really, how can I say, it's basically, you said it because you wanted to honor your father, to share with people about your father and your father and your relationship with him. And, since we just had Father's Day that just passed. And were you thinking about him quite a bit, since you're gonna be the next day to perform about your relationship with your dad?
Well, also today is, I shouldn't say today, it's tomorrow, on the Christian calendar is the 26th anniversary, the yahrzeit of his death. But yeah, that wasn't. It's just kind of like a coincidence. It was, I think. It's like there are some things from my past that I refuse to talk about. But I think there are other things where I think it's just healing to talk about things that you're ashamed of. I mean, one of my favorite authors is Jenny Lawson, and she talks about stuff that anybody else wouldn't want to talk about. And it's kind of inspiring, it's like, crying is not something I'm proud of, and it's like I would have been scared, I would have been really embarrassed if anybody had seen me that time when they were crying in that store. But it's like, 20 years later, I can talk about it. And it just kind of like feels good to kind of like get it off my chest.
So-
And and I think also it's kind of like a male thing that we kind of like have to be cool and, be really concerned about, looking good. And, to kind of talk about, a period of my life where, I didn't feel that good, I didn't look that good, and it's okay.
Yeah, because it seemed like it was a burden that you wanted to uplift and take it off from you. You also did you said you really understood Cats in the Cradle.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you sang it a little bit, and that it seems like it's a song that about with a son and his father.
yeah. And then, like I said, really, like I said, I cried enough when I was a kid that I pretty much, my adult years haven't cried a lot. And it was kind of like I didn't cry after my father died until I heard that song, and it just, sometimes music can hit stuff inside which couldn't otherwise be reached. And that song just kind of like, hit a raw nerve. And so, yeah, it got me crying. And like I said, I don't cry a whole lot.
Thanks for sharing that.
Well, thank you.
What a wonderful song, right? I just heard it last week.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
I have a question based on that, because you specifically, David, your piece is about your dad. And I don't really quite know how to phrase it, but I'm gonna try. Okay, I'm gonna ask a question, but it might not sound super nice, but I just need to get it out, and maybe I can kind of form it if I ask the question. But is it somewhat easier to write about your father now that he's no longer here? And let me explain what I'm saying. I don't have the best relationship with my family. There's nothing wrong, but we weren't very affectionate, and this was very hard for me. When the fact that they're still here, that I can actually say, I appreciate you for these things. And there's almost like this unspoken thing where we can only really talk about them once they're no longer here with us. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I mean, my relationship with my father has definitely changed a lot from what it was, when he died. One of the good things, and you're talking about music, one song that I really like is that line from that song. Was it painful to remember? We choose simply to forget. And there are a lot of painful memories of my father that I've since forgotten. And the only thing that I still remember, 20 plus years later, are the good times. And so I definitely feel very differently towards my father than I do now, or should I very differently now than I did then. That, yeah, there's, like I said, I don't really think that this piece itself has done a lot of healing, but I think there's a lot of healing that, has taken place over the last 26 years. And I don't know if I've answered your question. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Have I answered your question, or do you want me to?
It's a pretty loaded question. I guess I wanted to see if you had a take on what you thought about that, but I guess it really.
There's an old saying, time heals all wounds. And I do feel like it's very easy to look back on my father now than it was. I remember, there were times, like taking workshops at Esalen, where I did the, pounding on pillows and screaming at the top of my lungs. And I felt like I, did a lot of work in terms of healing my relationship with my father. And then I would get on the phone with him and revert back to the rebellious teenager. And now that I'm not on the phone with him anymore, it's like, there isn't all the new shit, to replace any old shit that I've worked through. And so it's a lot easier, to heal my relationship. It was a lot easier after he was gone. Does that make sense?
That actually answered my question.
Okay, thank you, good. I hope if I talked enough, I would answer your question.
I hear the question over there.
So Malcolm,
Yeah.
I would love to see, I think there's a wonderful story. The EDD is probably a very rich and story environment. I think you would be the perfect person to tell us more of the highs and lows of that, because just in that short piece, I was like, tell me more, I want more horror stories, but also like I think there's a lot of, pain and struggle, when it comes to the EDD department. And I have to admit, having filled out a form that asks that question that you said about, have you worked if there was a possibility of work and you thought you could work, I've been in that. I think a lot of us have. So I would, first of all, I hope that you, joined that part of that. I don't know if you're still in it, But I definitely think that you could, that'd be a rich source of environment for a longer story with
Mhm.
lots of highs and lows, so.
Yeah, yeah. I will take a stab at answering the question that I didn't hear.
Would you want to do more?
Would I want to do more with that? So, it depends. I think, like you're saying, there is an audience for that would love to hear the longer piece, and they would definitely like that. I personally, so to answer your question, no, I'm personally retired. I took a retirement from them. That personally was not an atmosphere that I found healthy at all, really.
Okay.
And so it's one of those things where yes, there are a lot of fun, a lot of strange things that happened, a lot of laughs, a lot of things that people can connect with, if they ever were in that position, or sometimes if they knew of someone else that was in that position. And people would find it somewhat interesting, I think, to hear it from the employee's point of view. But that's not something that I choose to explore often.
Yeah, no, I can see that. You gave us the best of it, in
Mhm,
a short, nice way, so I
Exactly.
understand that could be some painful things too, right?
Exactly,
Thank
exactly.
you for what you brought to us.
Sure.
This question is for Ron Don.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to become my best cosmic self,
Uh-huh.
so, I noticed that a lot of people in your generation really enjoyed that generation. And really would like other people who's come after that, hey, this is you should have been there. I always see that from someone who says that, someone who was doing the flower.
Yeah.
It should have been there because it was just so much to explain. Do you still feel that way, or, because you just tell me, just try to believe in your, become your best cosmic self?
Well, although there's a lot of joy in me, there's also, I have definitely a negative side. I think people that know me could testify to. And maybe some of my humor springs from there. But being a boomer, I mean, I feel like when the first time I had jury duty here in the city, I remember sitting, I didn't bring anything to read, and I was like, oh, man, you had to wait so long. So I was reading somebody's newspaper over somebody else's shoulder because I was so bored. And the headlines said, even lawyers don't like lawyers. And I thought that was really funny, sitting in, waiting for jury duty. I thought, yeah. And then I think my feeling about my generation is like, even boomers don't like boomers. I just feel like there's a portion of the generation that I mean, going through it, I mean, I remember one really hip friend I had, and I was lucky enough, I got to be his roommate for a few years in the early 70s. The first apartment, he invited me in to be his roommate, and it was like, I dropped out of college, I was working in the city, I wanted to live in the city, I wanted an urban life. So I'm living with him in this apartment, having a great summer, all told. And at one point he said, he was talking about, we're just thinking about, like, I don't know how it came up, but who's really hip, This was like, and he was like, this whole hip thing, anybody can smoke pot and grow their hair long and think they're hip. A lot of those people aren't hip. They're annoying. And it's like, and they're phony. And they're going to be like, they're having their summer of love, they're having all the sex they can have, they're doing drugs, they're having a great time. Well, you know what? they're gonna go out and get jobs and clean up their act and look down their noses at people that are, living this life, and he was right, and then he also said this beautiful thing was like, who are the hip people? It's like, hip people are like, people that wear sandals all summer long, school people that want to be school teachers so they can have the summer off, they're hip, and I just remembered that from him because I thought in a more lighter way, I thought that all youth gets to have their summer of love. Everybody gets to start off in their youth finding things, and it's like it's a big part of our existence, that really fulfills us, I think, in ways, and in some ways does help set your compass to the true north, what ideas really work. And it is important. That's why I do think there's a lot of feeling about like people feeling like the boomers are being called on, like, why didn't you fix it? Why didn't you figure out how to make world peace happen? Or, why is there still, air pollution, when you were, trying to do something, why didn't the gay rights movement solidify gay rights or something? Maybe the bigger issues though, I mean, it comes back to people give it their best, and that's what I'm feeling like now in my age. Is like trying to, not just to make peace with myself, but making peace with that era. Is like remembering what you're saying, that the great things about it is like that idealism is sort of it's there for us. I mean, I think you can always find it, if you reach for it and really cultivate it. And that is something that still remains true, just because there hasn't been world peace that endures, it's like, doesn't mean it can never happen. It just hasn't happened yet, so we have to keep cultivating it. So I do feel like, I do want to make people realize that, okay, the boomers, okay, maybe some of it was bullshit, or lost in themselves or too navel gazing or whatever, but other things about it were really fabulous, and people found a path to follow, and and hopefully, go thee well, on your path. And something to give, and I think that youth is always gives that to other people. It's important to listen to them. I think that's the other aspect. And that's the part I'm still waiting for in elderhood. Is like, okay, I get complaining about millennials, but hey, like one of my friends, like I remember people were complaining about millennials, and she's like, I like millennials, and it's like, because it's like the youth and what they bring can be so great and charging, and so
I think with every generation, hindsight is 20/20.
yeah,
It is. So I think every generation has to deal with the generation
they do.
and not be judgmental of the ones before them.
Yeah, and I do think that the boomer thing is in some ways it is overrated, maybe by the boomers or something. But on the other hand, a lot of great things really did happen. There was a lot of lids blown off as the 60s ended and into the 70s. I mean, the 60s themselves, but just that turning point, it's the modern age. I mean, it had a big chance to, and people, took it on that could, and it's very hard to convince a lot of people to really completely, open up themselves to that thought of how easy it might be to like be nicer, kinder, more loving. I mean, I think, I'm still working on it.
I kind of view that whole movement as just another scene, and as in what's like kind of a cool thing to do at the time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm 34, so I'm part of the millennials, and in my generation we had the Occupy movement, which was this sort of movement of people
Pretty
trying to
fantastic.
come together, 1% per se, and I would actually go to these things, spend the night in front of City Hall. But all it ended up being is just a lot of bickering amongst each other, and then just a lot of people doing drugs, doing the drum circle. And we did that for like a couple months, and then everyone went back to the drums, and then nothing came out of it. It was a scene. It was like a cool thing to do. It was cool to be on that side of the discussion, where like, yeah, you support it, but nothing really came out of it. You know, it's not to say that there wasn't an attempt to do it, and the same goes with that kind of whole hippie movement.
Yeah.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's, you kind of, you know, kind of open your eyes and think, okay, well, nothing's gonna happen, or maybe I'm over this, and you just move on to the next thing, and the next thing, and the next, you know?
I mean, it's definitely a point of like, people that protest or people that gather, it's like, it's, you feel that you're not alone. You see that many people who get the idea and have gathered for it. So that part of it, I think is always worth it. You know,
Yeah.
but you know, then you reach a point where people feel like, oh, I'm not protesting anymore. I'm already done. You know, didn't they already go to war in Iraq? You know, it's like,
Right.
why are we protesting it again?
Fun when you think maybe this will actually like make lasting change, and there's always the feeling when you go into that.
You do have to count on, like, we are in a democracy still, so hopefully when people realize, oh, there's that many people that feel that way, maybe they do open their heart a little bit and their mind to it, you know, so it does, I feel like I would never totally throw cold water on that feeling like maybe we can change something, you know, even though like it does become just a thing, you know, for people to hang out. Just-
Maybe the Rolling Stones will go back on tour. What do you think?
I'm sure.
I hear Mick Jagger's 80.
That's right. Maybe it'll be a virtual tour.
They will really be Rolling Stones.
So, David, I just wanted to say that I was touched when you told the story about the two little boys and then working with children for a year, for 5 years. Because I remember one time you mentioned to me going off to Esalen and something about kids, and I just sort of, I heard it. But when you told it on stage today, it made me realize, that's how I am. I don't do kids. I don't know kids. I don't hang with kids. I just don't do that. And so you challenging yourself, it was very touching. It made me realize, well, maybe I would like kids if I gave them a chance to like them.
I thought about it like a door to your dad being gone and how, you know, you were being like a father to these kids. You were like, you skirted the idea of like maybe, you know, your father, the arrangement you had with him, or that was finally at peace. And then you opened up yourself to be with children, like the way you would have wanted somebody to be with you as a kid. And I thought that when you were explaining it, I thought, wow, that is the full circle of your story. What you did in your life is really cool.
First way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All three of your presentations had a subtext of self-discovery
Mhm.
in one way or another.
That's right.
Really love
Mhm.
it. That, I mean, the example of the two kids would be, you know, you found something in yourself you didn't know was there.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I can hang with kids. I got this, right? Yeah.
Like, I thought your race, the track meet, that was so, that you made it funny, but it was so intense and sad that you had that weight in your childhood, and then the way it was you know, a kid would perceive it, and the way, you know, maybe people didn't really help you get along with it, and yet your coach and then the track meet and all that, it was like, that was just great that was there, that came into your life. But the fact that you triumphed over that illness is remarkable.
Yeah, now I feel kind of bad that I cut you off so early, guys. People don't know. I cut his performance the first part, well, technically the second part.
Yeah.
The way that you're.
Yeah, it's called crossing the finish line. And he cut like halfway, I was halfway through, so maybe I got through 4 minutes. And then he cut.
That was so good. I mean, I can't believe like it's so embarrassing that I had such a good first part.
You picked up though, you did not stop.
Yeah.
I was stopping. Really great.
It's, yeah.
I think we have enough time for one more question. Anyone? No? Okay, I guess we'll just end with, if there is anything else that you guys have coming in the horizon, any other performances that you have either at the Marsh or at other theaters, or if you have any other projects that you're thinking of doing, anything that you would like to promote, please feel free, now's the time.
Well, if you're out and want to have a drink, stop at the Latin American Club. I have artwork on the wall there. That's my art.
Right down the corner?
Right, yeah, right on 22nd Street.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, up past Boogaloo's.
Yeah, now to,
Yeah.
Boogaloo, or whatever, what's that restaurant called before? It's right next to that.
It's Boogaloo's.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
That's the restaurant.
okay.
And then there's a couple, there's one little shop, a little tailor shop, and then there's a Latin American Club. And my artwork's around. Yeah,
Okay.
hopefully it'll be there for a while. The shows usually hang a long time. That's one of the reasons why I wanted it there. I was like,
Malcolm?
I do not, sir. Thank you for asking though.
All right, do you have like, do you use Instagram or Facebook, or do you have an email that you like to have people subscribe to, so you can blast them out, if you have anything going on in the future?
I do, Malcolm at malcolmgrissom.com, or better yet, just go to malcolmgrissom.com and learn more about me. You can get one of my free gifts, and yeah, I will then let you know when and where and what I'm doing, whether it's virtual or in person.
I love it. And David?
Well, I love telling stories, so as of right now, I have nothing on my calendar, but I will probably tell either this story or another story at some point in the future.
Maybe you'll come back in the fall?
Yeah,
We're still accepting applications.
wait, let me do my Joe Bias story again.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Contact Alexa, I'm sure you know how to do that. And
Yeah,
that
so
goes for
we'll do that.
anybody. If you ever want to come up and tell a story, this is a perfect place to do it. We get people from all skill set levels to come in and share their stories. Please give all three of them a round of applause.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure is for the, I'm Miss Pearl, and I'll see you next Monday, you guys. Have a nice time down there in cyberspace. Thanks a lot.